Hi, I'm Riley for V-Cycling News, and this is the Thursday night PRT handicap race. Tonight it's taking place on a road referred to as the ancient Barrow. As per usual with one of Will Usher's races, Will makes these races challenging in a manner that they have a little bit of elevation in them in a short period of time, and they are aggressive climbs, shall we say. It's looking like it's going to be a great race. I'm just going to go back to the RGT DB database. Some of you guys might have been watching the other week. I mentioned that the handicap races now have a permanent home on RGT DB. You can find them, you can find the links to all the past coverage that we've done, information to how to set your handicap, and you can get in there and get involved, have a look at the previous races and find out what you're going to be getting into. Tonight it's the ancient Barrow. You see it's 27.6 kilometers based on a magic road. These races are very often based around where Will lives. Will's the organizer of the PRT races and the runner of the precision race team, one of the head coaches. 435 meters of climbing and 372 of descending, so you're paying more than you're receiving on this race. For those who are new to the platform, new to this race, it is a handicap race. So in handicapping, what you do with the handicap is the racers that are more elite class racers, they've got a higher FTP. They give themselves a weight disadvantage, so they increase their weight on these races so that they have a little bit of difficulty. And the riders who've got a slightly lower FTP, newer riders to the platform, guys who are perhaps not as fit, not as able to race and train as frequently, they tend to have a lower FTP and they'll get a weight bonus, so they'll actually reduce their weight for the event. To work these out, you take your weight, you take your FTP, a recent FTP preferably, divide it by 3.2. That will give you your weight that you put into the RGT app and you use for these events. You only use it for these events. You need to remember to change your weight before you go into the race, and you also need to remember to change it back when you're coming out. If you're putting more weight on, you're going to be giving yourself a penalty in all the other races that you take back. If you're taking weight off and you're going into other races, you might not be the favourite guy in those races. Somebody might call you out on that, being a little bit lighter than you should be. Yeah, so make sure, to be fair, in all the other races, make sure you've put your race weight back to what it should be. And we're not too far off from this race kicking off, so we're going to jump down to the track. We'll have a look at who's available in this race, who's racing tonight. As usual, we've got a few riders from the PRT team. It's well publicised in the PRT channels. There's a WhatsApp group you can join up. There's a Discord group you can join in with. Discord, race Discord, very good fun. If you've not taken part in it before, the race Discord for the PRT group can be a little bit sweary, a bit panty, but it is good to take part in, and it's interesting to take part in it and to hear the pain that other riders are going through. It makes you feel like you're not alone, but it can be fun listening to it and taking part. You can as well call out that you're needing assistance, that you want to ride with somebody. It's a big group chat, so you can make an alliance, ride with somebody to the bottom of the last climb, for instance, and then decide, right, okay guys, we'll ride together to the last climb, but then we're going to go. We've got 14 seconds left till the start of this race. I can see Will Deegan's in this race, a new rider, Rawback. Will Deegan getting his engine rolling there. You want to get up to power before the start of these races, and we are off, we are underway. So jump up to the front of this race. You don't want to be following my character. And you see Will Deegan there with Darren Ray of Team Lou taking an early lead. chasing on with those. Ollie Perkins. Ollie, fantastic little rider. He's only a youngster. Rides frequently in this event. Often rides with his granddad. It's good to see that these riders from all over the world riding together. But Ollie, I think he's only 14 and he has a tremendous weight penalty into these races. So he does fantastic for his positioning he gets. Guy Hepner's in there. Guy always up near the front of these races. Oh, Will Stone's in here. Will be taking part in the 24-hour Barrow event that's going to be going on the 21st of December. It's starting off at 9 o'clock in the morning for everybody from your own time zone. The hope is that people will take part from 9 o'clock in the morning and ride for 24 hours. Will is intending to do the 24-hour in that period. But there are other classes. Obviously not everyone's capable or willing to ride for 24 hours. So there's the class 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 hours. And then we also added a team classification to that event. So you can have the option to ride with some of your friends. You could have it with 2 riders, ride 12 hours each. You can have it with 4 riders, ride 6 hours each. Or you could have it with 6, which is probably recommended, and riding 4 hours each. Now you see Ben Lowe just behind that. Ben's been having a fantastic time in these events and not quite been challenging for the win on these events. He's had some technicals. We'll just drop back to this group, see how they're working together to try and reel Will in here. So we've got Guy here. There's a new rider for this event, Rohrback. And Rohrback's Polish rider. Guy Hepner in this group, and Darren Ray. Darren's been riding fantastically in these last few events. Will Deegan just dropping off this group a little bit. He's back in 9th position there. So we've got a little bit of flat ground here. Will is a fantastically strong rider on the flats. A little bit of a heavier rider, so I'm not sure how he'll get on with the climbs in this race. His weight will be attenuated to his FTP, so he may be getting a benefit going up on these hills. I'm not sure what his current FTP is, but what does happen is some of these riders who've got they're used to riding at their own weight. So what can happen when you're going into these hills, you're not used to how long it should take you with more weight or less weight, and if you're not used to riding with a handicap, it can completely throw you off your tempo. So you go and you attack one of these hills expecting to fly over it, you've got a weight penalty, you're slower, so you try harder thinking you should have covered it, and you just end up blowing up. So it's interesting to see the different dynamic with riders who are really strong. See Darren here and Aquiles, Portuguese rider, trying to come across to Will on the front of this race. So got Ferrara there, Guy Hepner, Ben Lowe, sticking on the wheel, a guy there. David Bruckhusen and Rohrback, Will Deegan, Smith, and then we've got a little bit of a break back to Mel. And then we've got Yaya Kazoglu in 13th position, just been passed there by Jonathan Wales. Verchik there as well, and then we've got a little group in here. Moon Riders, Rychek there. As VCN, probably should mention we are covering the tour that Moon Riders are doing currently at the moment. They're doing a Moon Riders tour on the Tuesday nights. Lots of nights available for racing at the moment. Covering it on VCN on the Tuesday nights for the European legs. It is happening in different time zones across the world, and it's happening on Thursday nights on the Americas time zone. Moon Riders been around for a while, but they're just getting into the event organisation, and they're putting a lot of effort into it. Good to see that another group coming through and arranging events. We see Strong there. Got his team name in brackets behind his name there, which is a DHC. It's not a team name that I'm familiar with. I'll have to research that afterwards. Ollie Perkins just on the back of this group. We've got Long and Spoons, slightly distanced here. Behind them, Solly, Alori, Dobbo, Venema, and a little bit of a group in here. We've got Disalt, Clements, Chris Shackleton, and Ian Hurst. Ian Hurst frequently takes place in these races. He's in a lot of the races. He does enjoy his racing on RGT. Got Adams at the back of this group, and then just dropping back a little bit here, we've got a grouping of the PRT ladies. And we've got Lou Gelling, Katie Warren, Bev Usher in that group as well. Tripp's another name that I'm not familiar with. Back again, we've got a big group of the bots, and we'll add bots into these races, but the bots are always created with lower watt per kilograms. The idea is that they're to not influence the racing at all. They'll be at the back of the race and just to be there for anyone that gets dropped, gets left out of a group, perhaps is feeling more that they're going to do this as a tempo ride, as a training ride. We've got Lopez floating around somewhere in this group, not too far away from the next group on the road. I think that might be the last of the real riders tonight. Oh, you can see Tom Smith there. Tom Smith been dropped a little bit back in this race. Just sticking in with this group of bots, enjoying the draft. Adams a bit further back there as well. Adams back in 67th position there. Got Bot coming up with him. Ray's coming up for company. Jump on their wheel. So as with most of the races on virtual platforms, they do start off with a phenomenally fast start, and it's hard if you don't catch that start and stick to somebody's wheel. It can be difficult to make the breaks, to stick with the groups. We're up here, we see Mai at the front of the group. And then just behind him we've got Aquiles. And Aquiles was further back down. We see they've distanced the main group, Ferrara, by 50 metres nearly there. May making another move there. There's a pack behind chasing on this flat. As we're just going into these slopes, we'll see how the weight handicaps affect. Will Stone's been swallowed up by the group of Ben Lowe, Ferrara and Hepner. Darren Ray, you're not just able to stick with that group. He's been dropped a bit further back. Ben Lowe, I wonder if he's going to make the bridge to this group on the front. Just keep the camera on him for a moment. He's pushing out 4.6 watts per kilogram there. He's gone into his red. You can probably notice these power bars underneath the riders. Those bars show different colours in relation to the power, the raw watts that the riders are outputting in relation to the FTP that they have entered into the system. So generally it's a good indication of how much power the rider's putting out, how long they're really going to be able to maintain that power for. You've got green powers which are FTP, yellow's above FTP. As you're going further into the reds, red is painful, and then there's a bright red, almost a neon red, which is excruciating. You can only stay in that neon red section for a very brief period. Achilles there, just holding the gap from Ben Lowe. Ben's a little bit potentially in no man's ground here. He's 20 meters away from Achilles, and the Hepner group that's chasing on is still 20 meters behind him. You may be wise to just save a match or two here and drop back with the Hepner group and enjoy the drafting with Hepner and Stone, and save some of his energy for a little bit later on the stage. This is the first of a number of sharp inclines. This one up around about 3%. We've a brief spell of flatter green section, and then we do start hitting the typical 10% gradients that Will puts into these events. Worth noting, I have mentioned these gradients and these inclines. A handicapped race only really works on the watt per kilogram. Watt per kilograms are only really effective when you're on an incline. On the flat, it's the raw watts that matter. On the inclines, it's watts per kilogram. So if you're working on a handicap race, you do have to include some elevation into the race in order to even things across the riders. If you just do it on a flatter race, the handicap doesn't really work. As anybody who pushed a car will know, you can push a car on the flat, you can get up a decent head of steam, even though it weighs a ton. You start putting any kind of slope in front of that car, you very quickly come to a halt. And it's the same sort of thing in cycling. When you've gone on the flat, you can use your inertia, you can build up steam, you can get up to power, and you can go fast, pretty much regardless of your weight. It does have an effect, but when you start pushing it uphill, that's when the watt per kilogram, the weight disadvantages even things out, and you find yourself slowing down very quickly. Hepner and Lowe there joining forces. Probably been having a chat in the Discord. As I say, Lowe's been very close to winning these races. It's been the technicals that he's experienced that have reduced his chances. So going into this incline very shortly. See a distance now opening up 44 meters back to Will Stone and Will Deegan. Sorry, Will Stone and Rohrback there. Will Deegan's still a little bit further off their wheels. Guy Hepner pushing through, giving his wheel to Ben Lowe. Both part of PRT. As Ferrara drags Will Stone back up to this group now on this first section of incline. Ben just dropping to the back of this group. Guy Hepner keeping the pressure on, pushing forward. Ben just being distanced now as these inclines start to creep up. 3.9%, 4%. And looking like Ben is going to be dropping back now to the Rohrback Deegan group as we're going up to 8.4% now. Real leg snapping territory. Just checking the results of Mai, our current leader. Yeah, Daniel Mai is the silver categorised rider on RGTDB. He's had some reasonable racing results in the OTR Dubai, Tour de Waffle, and also strangely appears to have been in the women's weekender race. perhaps not great at reading the descriptions of the races. Just run back up to the front now. Daniel Mai there, pushing out 4.1 watts per kilogram. The kilo is just behind him there. So while we're mentioning this, the results are checked at the end of the race. Will does go through them and review everyone's powers, and there is a manual DQing of riders who've been judged to have perhaps not paid enough attention to the instructions and adjusted their FTP accordingly. It is easy to make the mistake of not adjusting your weight, and it's also possible to have done it and it's a course that suits you. You know, there are times when I ride outside of my skin and I have been able to put out more than I would have expected to, and that's great, but you might not end up in the final results. There is a combativity award for these races, which is voted for, and we do look at the Facebook streams, and if you're watching this race and you're seeing someone who's riding out their skin, if you put a comment in, we'll put them forward for the combativity award. It is the main award for this race. It isn't getting on the podium. That's nice, but the admiration, the adulation of your fellow riders is worth much more than a slightly higher step on the podium. See Guy now pushing towards the top of this hill. Tricky place to be here. He's going to crest this hill with Will Stone, Ferrara behind him. Will is a pretty good rider on the flat, and I think he's going to have trouble keeping these two riders from closing the gap on him. You can also see Ben Lowe there is not actually out of the running yet. So if Ben gets hooked on to this group before the descent starts, then I think he's got a real good chance of recovering Guy Hepner and potentially the rest of the riders. You see Will there, as soon as the terrain starts going downwards, Will's keeping the power on. He's picked up Guy, flowing past him. Ferrara, he's covering the gap to Guy Hepner as well. So Will there, making the most of the descent. Open up a slight gap on Guy and Ferrara, 31 metres. Mai and Aquila's there, 950 metres in front. I'm going to discount those out of this race. To have a sort of gap of that size, it leads me to believe, I think that there's something possibly slightly off with their weight there. So we're going to consider that this is the front of the race, in my opinion. Will Stone, Guy Hepner and Ferrara. So as I say, I am watching Facebook. If you put any comments out, I'll give you a shout out in the stream. You want any questions answering, again, same thing, give a shout out on the Facebook and we'll mention you in the stream. It's the Facebook channel is V Cycling News. That's V for Victor, Cycling News. And whilst you're over on the page, why not give it a like and check out some of the other information that we've got there. We're always trying to bring you new, fresh information, little features about the RGT platform, a little bit of inside information as we get it. Will pushing on hard now. He's still slightly downhill. You see there, even though he's up in the yellow and red, his FTP, sorry, his watts per kilogram is around the 3.2. I have a feeling he's going to be close to the boundaries that get set, but
Will, as I say, will review the race afterwards and the powers of all the riders taking part. Will had an accident earlier on this year, had a slow puncture on his bike and ended up going high-sided, had a really nasty gash on his elbow, had to take some time off from cycling, and he's just getting himself back to match fitness. Earlier on this year he was fantastically fit, I ride with Will quite frequently. So while we're on this green section, this descent, it's looking a little bit static. I think we'll probably see Guy and Ferrara catch up with Will. And we'll take a drop back through the rest of the race and see how everyone else is getting on. And just while we're on, I think Ferrara, if I remember rightly, Ferrara's racing virtually at his own weight. I think he's around about the 90 kilo mark. And he's hoping to improve on that. He wants to be taking a weight penalty into these races, wants to be improving on his FTP and slightly reducing his weight as he goes on. So I see this group getting back together now. Going back a little bit further now, we've got Vercic and Deegan here. Will Deegan, really popular rider, takes part in these races frequently. He's won the combativity award a few times. And Rohrbach, who is in the front with these riders, he's 80 metres back on Deegan now. That's a recoverable gap. Keeps a good pace on. A little bit further back now, we've got Yayok, Zoglu, Smet, Broer. Smet I was racing with frequently last year. Not sure what he's been doing all summer. He might be one of those weird people who goes out and rides on actual real roads. But it's good to see him back on the platform. He's been on several of the races that I've covered and watched recently. And we're dropping back, we've got Jonathan Wales, Strong and Smith all grouping together there. Be good to see if these groups make it together and towards the line, see who's got the last bit to break away. Last bit of energy in the legs. Who wants it most? Back here with Forster, Darren Ray. Darren again, a frequent rider of these races. He's all over the place on RGT, takes part in a lot of the events. And another little grouping here. Vanema, Rychek, Brookhuizen and Desault. Desault, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the real name of that rider. I think Desault's a nickname. Have to again check up on that. And just behind them, they've been distanced slightly. They've got Long there, 60 metres. They're in their yellow power band there. Racing in the Internationals jersey. Internationals did an event on RGT last year when COVID struck and a lot of the real life events were affected. A lot of groups bringing their event virtually into the world of RGT. It was great to see that these riders were able to do that and they weren't just cancelling them, they were just moving them to the virtual world. Just going to shoot back up to the front of this race. We're into the red section of the next climb. Got Mai and Achilles keeping pace with each other. And just further back the road we've got Hepner, Stone, Ferrara. Just been distanced now. Been riding well to keep with Hepner and Stone there. Ferrari being distanced by 50 metres or so now. Going back to Virtue now. Deegan, they're still together, pushing Red Watts. We can just see in the distance up the road there, Ferrara. Those riders acting as a rabbit for these guys to chase. You really have to be careful. It's something that I find is when you see a rider in the distance, you can burn too many matches getting up to them. And if they're just riding at tempo, you get to them and just flake out and they ride off on you. You've done all that energy to get to them, and when you get caught to them, you've just got nothing in the tank to stay with them. So Hepner and Stone now. Hepner and Stone onto the flat at the top of this. Going to be descending in a second. Will managing to keep the power a little bit more now. Keeping it level. Hepner just eased off on the crest of this hill. Will pushing steady Watts. Goes over the top, straight into descent. Minus 5.2. That gap with the benefit of the descent, it's just opened up to Guy there, 228 metres. Ferrari just coming to that top of this section. There's a little bit of a false flat on this hill. Just about to see rise in the distance. Furchek and Deegan matching each other pace for pace. Oxyzoglu managed to break free from his little group here on that climb. Oxyzoglu pushing on. Smet trying to recover that. And Bra racing with him. Rohrback, he's nearly recovered this group as well on this climb. He's had a good climb on this hill. Rohrback trying to push now, get back to the group before this descent. As we just start this descent now, you'll see this gap opening up. Two riders working together, even without really trying, they'll open a gap up on a rider, but Rohrback is pushing hard now. 56 metre gap. See Smet and Bra there just reeling in on Xuzoglu. And Rohrback pushing as we're flattening out slightly. He's pushing to get back to this group. Rohrback wearing the Ratio Racers jersey there. Not been added in too long to the platform. Ratio did some pop-up races earlier on the year on Monday nights. They got the full team turning out and they did fantastically in those events. They were really good showcase events to show how well the drafting works on RGT and how you can use the team tactics basically to win races. Not just racing as a blob, racing as a team with Discord, having a DS telling you what's happening on the road, telling you what time to push, giving you information on the hills, information on what the other racers were doing. And they were very successful in those races, and it was really good to watch that for a platform. You could see the tactics that were being used and you could call it and know when they were going to sit up on the front and slow the racers down and one of their riders was going to fly off the front. Just a bit further back now, Strong's broken free of the Wales and Smith riders who are going with him. Jonathan Wales and Smith there. Forster back in 15th position. And he's just managed to drop Darren Ray there. And the group result. Venema there, picking up Ray. Ray seeing that, jumping on the pedals, making sure he doesn't get dropped by this group. He's going to get some drafting off this group. These riders are going to stay in the wheels. Rychek on his own now. Got Long covering the distance to him. Yeah, Long sees him in the distance. Rychek perhaps just easing up slightly, seeing that Long's chasing. Knowing that it's better to ride with another rider than it is to go solo and try and keep away from them. Yeah, Rychek just upping the power there as Long reaches the wheel. You can see there Long is gaining 16 watts on this slight incline. Dobo in 21st. Then we've got another group in here of Adams, Hurst, O'Lory, Chris Shackleton. We're missing a few of the regular riders from the PRT group. We've usually got a few more riders in here. Wayne's usually a regular of these races. He's famous for his Wayne train, his 1,000-watt sprints from the start, well, 1,000 plus. Very good rider. If you see him on the line, he's a good rider's wheel to stick to. David Brookers in there in 26th position. We usually have another rider called Chris Bancroft, also rides an orange top, who's challenging frequently for the lead on these races. We've got Tripp, Clements, Spoons with Ollie Perkins on his wheel, Lou Gelling of PRT. She's just dropped some of her friends there, Ursula and Katie Warren. Lou is an absolute beast on the hills. Many a time I've had her sit on my wheel as we're on the flat sections, only to get to a hill and wave goodbye. She knows how to attack the hills, that's for sure. Katie Warren, Ursula and Bev Usher there. We've got Robin Druitt back here with the bots keeping them company. Sitting in there in that pack of bots is saving 260 watts. It's a massive saving. Very efficient riding. We've got Lopez. Just a little bit of no man's land in between groups of bots. I'm going to fly back up to the front of this race. My Keyless, nice distance to Keyless now. And then we've got Will Stone, and 97 metres behind him currently we've got Guy Hepner. You see Will there's giving it the full beans, power bars red. He's up at 4.7 watts per kilogram. We're on a 10.5 degree slope at the moment. Will's opening up the gap on Guy at the moment. It's 117 metres. So we just come into the top of this climb. Easing off 9%, down to 7.5. Still see Guy just in the distance there. Only a few pixels shown on the screen. Gap's up to 140 metres at the moment. Guy's still pushing hard. Guy now conscious of the distance from him back to Verchik. Verchik's had a good climb there. He's managed to group up with Ferrara. And they're only 70 metres behind Guy. Guy's going to have to be wary of these two riders. These three riders actually. It's Deegan's managed to group up with them as well. They've all stuck together now. The 3 riders there, as we come into this greener section, they'll be working well together. There's a good chance that Guy could get reeled in here. Would that be the worst thing? Should Guy ease off, group up with those other riders, and the 4 of them work together to reel back in Will, taking turns on the front? That's a problem with the virtual world. Not everyone goes into the Discord server, not everyone knows what's happening in the race, and without that communication on the road, it's a little bit hard to have this chat, this looking at each other. What should we do? Should we chase? Should we ease off? Will now eased off slightly. He's got 300 meter gap on Guy now. Ferrara, Vercic, Deegan grouped up together. Ferrara's pulling on the front, Vercic's rolling through. Vercic and Deegan there not looking particularly keen on taking the front of this group. And Ferrara now seeing this, he's easing off. This is the virtual cat and mouse, looking at each of the riders, who's going to put the effort in to pull this group along. Deegan pushing at the moment. Ferrara's just got to be wary now. He doesn't want to put in too much effort to pull back onto the front, but he can't afford to have that draft dropped. He needs to make sure he's close enough to be maintaining the draft. Vercic, Deegan, Ferrara. Deegan puts in a little stint there, and Ferrara has been gapped. Drop back to Ferrara now, and we'll see what drafting advantage he's got. He's got no drafting advantage there. He's going to dig into his box of matches, spark one up, and try and get back onto this group. Deegan's pushing now. Deegan's seeing that he's been distanced. Deegan moves on to the front. Ferrara's covered it up. Vercic now having to put in an effort. Deegan's eased. Ferrara back on the front. These little explosions are what does for your legs, what really tires you out. See Deegan pushing again now. Deegan threw it onto the front. I wonder if Deegan's seen the little bit of indecision, the little bit of gapping open to Ferrara there, whether he's going to repeat these little attacks to try and drop Ferrara off the back of the group. Ferrara's been racing quite frequently in these races, as Will Deegan, so they'll know each other quite well. They'll know what they're each capable of. I'll zoom back up to the front. My flying off the front there. They've actually been reeled back in somewhat, but they're still looking at a gap of around about 900 metres. Akila's eased off. Willstone on a little micro climb in the middle here. Little tempo breaker, 10%, but only short climb. Will goes into that deep red zone. That's a zone that you can only stay in for a brief period of time before the lactic starts building up and your eyes start watering. And we've got 270 metre back to Hepner, and just dropping back again now. That gap between Hepner and Vercic, Ferrara and Deegan has increased now to 210 metres. I doubt that this is anything that Guy's done. I think this is just the fact that they are not working together as a cohesive group. They're attacking each other and they are not gaining on the riders in front of them like they should be doing. Guy there going into that bright red colour. So while with a brief moment of respite, we'll run back, check Deegan out, putting in another attack, distancing Ferrara, distance in Virtue as well this time. See if these two riders push to recover that gap. I drop back to check out on the other riders on the road. Smat, Oxazoglu, Barrow, riding fairly well together. Just hitting that micro climb, 7.1% at the moment. Smat having to put a bit of effort in here. Oxazoglu riding, wearing the Rose Beast mode top there. The Beast mode team rides frequently on Zwift. They are over on RGT, currently taking part in the RGT Echelon race series. Sorry, it's the Echelon race series that takes part on RGT, takes place on RGT. They've got their shirt in RGT now, and we hope that they will be taking part in a lot more of the RGT events now that they've had a chance to sample how good it is, what the difference is. Oxazoglu puts in an effort now to recover Barrow and Smat. Forster recovered by Strong there. Forster putting the effort in to stay with Strong. Roar back, further back down the road. Then we've Smith and Jonathan Wales. These two have been riding together for a while. Although Smith now putting in a bit of an effort and slightly distancing Wales. Result, 16th position. And he was riding with that group of Wales and Smith, but it's been gapped. We see Darren Ray being caught now by the group of Long and Rychek. They're not too far away from his old now. These repetitive climbs just getting into the legs of Darren here. He's recovered this group. We've got some longer green sections here. If he stays with this group, I'm sure he'll have a good chance of overtaking them towards the finish line. There is a rather red looking climb to finish on. I'm sure the riders will be looking forward to that. Got Venema in 20th position, Hurst in 21st, Chris Shackleton in 22nd, Adams in 23rd, Laurie in 24th, Dobo closing down on these riders, 25th position, Tripp in 26th, David Brookers and not putting in much power here. I'm just wondering if he's treating this as a recovery ride or whether he's decided that tonight's not the night and he's just going to ride a bit more easily. Using the look behind feature there, the animation of the character allows you to turn your head, look behind and check how close you are to the group behind. I'm feeling David may be watching the stream as well. He's performing for the camera. Got Ursula back here now with Clements. Ollie Perkins with the company of Bev Usher. And we've got Lou and Katie there. Lou was a bit further up in this race before. I wonder if she's decided to drop back and ride with her teammate or whether she's had an issue on the road. Spoon's in 34th. So I'm just going to head back up to the front of this race because we are nearing the finish for these lead riders. It's got 281 metres left to this finish line. No riders behind him. As I say, I think it's likely that Mai is going to end up being disqualified from the results here with his watt per kilogram. He's likely to be over the allowed limits. There is a bit of a variation from the 3.2. Don't expect people to get it bang on, but it's not that generous. Maya, rider from Austria. 8.6% gradient on this finish straight. Meters left to cover. Mike comes over the finish line. Aquiles, Portuguese rider. 150 meters left. Pushing out 325 watts on this incline. So you see, just in the distance there, we can see Will Stone. It's closing the gap, but he's not going to recover Aquiles. Aquiles, I think, may end up being disqualified. There'll be a race report. Will Usher provides a fantastic race report in the Facebook group after the event. It's well worth reading. As Will comes up to the finish line. Will Stone, I feel sure he'll be having an FTP increase after this race. "85 meters left to cover." Will performing for the camera. Hi Will, glad to see that you're watching the coverage. 6 meters left to go. So we've got Guy Hepner here. This is going to be interesting. We've got 215 meters left for Guy now, but he's being chased hard by Will Deegan. Will has raced very well here. He's saved his matches for this last ascent. He's rode with the little group of riders and saved his energy. Rode very efficiently with Verchik and Barrow. Sorry, Verchik and Ferrara to save his matches to get to this climb. He's got 60 meters left to go. He's overhauled Guy Hepner. Ferrara coming through on Guy as well. As we come 10 meters left to go. Ferrara's got no chance of recovering Deegan here, but he is going to hold off Guy Hepner. Whether Guy can hold off Verchik or not. Oh yeah, Verchik's been distanced well there. Verchik coming up 8.8% now. Rode well. A little bit of battling between him, Deegan and Ferrara there. Verchik lost down that group. He's rode very well tonight. Let's see Bra. Yes, Bra can see the finish line in the distance, but just behind him we've got Smet. Smet is absolutely smashing it. He's trying to overhaul Bra now. There's not much of a drafting advantage to be had here. I think it's Stefan de Smet. He's pushing hard. We've got 90 meters left to go. Bra putting in a sprint. Smet 4.4 watts per kilogram. Bra's still got more left in the tank. Bra is 6.5 watts per kilogram. He's going to come over the finish line first. Smet, a valiant effort there, but he didn't quite have it in the legs to cover it. Oxyzoglu coming in 10th position. Distance by Smet and Bra there. The three of them rode together for most of this race. Oxyzoglu easing up before the line there. No, he's not going to win. See Forster. Forster have been having a little bit of a battle with Strong as this race has gone on. forced a convincing win over Strong here. 70 metres left to go and a gapping of 45. And he's going into that deep red colour, 4.1 watts per kilogram, pushing out 335 watts. As he comes over the line, Strong in 12th position now. He's got a good distance over Smith, the next ride on the road. Strong comes over. Smith, 122 metres left to go. Desault and Long battling it out behind him. Drop back there as we've got a big grouping of riders now. Smith just going over the line. Long is pushing now to try and overhaul Desault. Desault's going into that bright red pain area. Long riding well here. Suspect Long is a slightly lighter rider, that covering the gap slightly, but Desault's gone 5.4 watts per kilogram. They're sprinting now, holding Long off. Long being chased by Jonathan Wales now, but Wales can't just recover it on a sprinting stage on a bit something flat. They might have recovered that with the drafting. Oh, as we see there, Dober just flying past Rohrbach in the last seconds. Venom are coming through in 19th position. Ian Hurst with a fantastic ride there to come through in 20th, being chased by Rychek. Is Rychek going to overhaul him? Rychek just not able to make the distance. Chris Shackleton coming through with Alluri. This is a battle now with these two. Chris Shackleton managing to hold Alluri off. Alluri's power dropping right off there. I wonder if Alluri's had a problem with his gear change there. Maybe he's slipped a gear. Oh, that must be punishing to be so close there. Managed to hold off Adams though. It looked like a technical for Alluri there. Adams come through holding off Darren Ray. Darren putting the power down here. 38 metres, he's unleashing a sprint for this finish line, 6.2 watts per kilogram. Couldn't quite hold it to the line, but that's good riding. Back now to Tripp. Tripp in 26th position. He's still got 400 metres to go. He's got this whole climb in front of him, but he's got a 220 metre gap over David Bruckhausen. David Bruckhausen is a fantastically strong rider, but he'll have to put in some effort to close down that gapping at this point in the race. Tripp putting the effort in now. Fantastic thing about all of the RGT races is that you see effort from all of the riders all the way down the field. It isn't just, I'm not in the top 10, I'm not going to ride tonight. You see effort all the way down. Every rider fights for the position that they're challenging for. They really want to finish the race in the best position that they can. See Tripp now pushing hard. 130 metres left to go. He's going to carry this effort all the way to the line. Tripp's wearing the Cycling Podcast Giro. There was an event called the Our Giro event, which was hosted virtually by the Cycling Podcast. It was an ode to the Giro through the seasons, through the years. Every stage based upon a famous Giro stage. Tripp comes over in 26th position there, powered all the way to the line. David Bruckhausen here, distancing Ursula. So yeah, the Our Giro event, either a stage based upon a famous stage from the Giro or a famous competitor from the Giro. As Bruckhausen here pushes all the way to the line, 6 watts per kilogram. Ursula distancing Lou Gelling there. As I say, she's a beast on the hills, but she's been beaten by Ursula tonight. Ursula obviously having good legs tonight, pushing hard, 8.8%, distancing Lou there, 46 metres. Lou's cranking out 260 watts on this punishing climb at the end of a race. Will always puts in interesting courses. likes to put a steep finish line in. There's Ollie Perkins pushing for the line with Clements chasing. He holds his 30th position there, Ollie is. Clements come through in 31st. Katie Warren of RGT. The RGTP stands for RGT Pioneers. Some of the earlier riders to adopt the RGT platform from the PRT racers. As Katie comes over in 32nd position with Bev Usher pushing now. This last climb is putting all his effort in. Finishing in a very respectable 33rd position tonight. Bev Usher takes part in a lot of the races, really enjoying his virtual racing. You see now, we've got Spoons in with the bots. Spoons with 111 metres to cover to this finish line. Another nice feature about the handicap races, the handicap does allow a big range of athletes to compete together. It's no fun being an elite athlete, one of the better athletes on a platform, going out and racing and having no challenge. You know, you go out racing to have a challenge. But it also means that racers who potentially are not going to be challenging for those top spots, and Spoons comes over in 39th position there, racers who aren't going to be challenged for those top spots aren't finishing miles away from the winners. You know, they're finishing in pretty close times. They're not on the platform sat there as Robin Druitt comes over in 44th position. They're not sat on the platform cranking away with no challengers, nobody to race against for ages. I've been in races before now when, you know, there's no handicap. You finish the race sometimes 30 minutes behind the winners of the race. As Lopez comes through there, 58th position. Not too many of the Portuguese racers tonight. There is usually quite a big contingent of Portuguese riders. There's an RGT Portugal Facebook page as well for anyone who is listening to this and thinking, where can I find out more information about the RGT events? Where can I find out more information in my native tongue so I'm not having to translate all the time? You can find it on the RGT Portugal Facebook page. And if you have a look around, there are quite a few groups opening up for different nationalities. There's an RGT Hungary page, for instance, as well. The main group is the RGT users page, but there are events. There's an RGT France page as well, I'm pretty sure. There are events that are shared around for specific groups, and it can be good to race with your countryman or even race on a platform on a race as a countryman race, racing together against the Brits or the French, for instance. So dropping back in the group here now. I think we had one more rider left. We've got Tom Smith. Oh, sorry, got Tom Smith and Adams. We had two riders left on the group here. Tom Smith, another of the Team Lou riders. So Team Lou, they have a racing team, but Team Lou is famous for their Saturday and Sunday group rides. Lou is an early adopter of the platform. He's been on it for years. He loves company, and the company that he loved turned into a group, and that group turned into a group ride that takes part on Saturdays and Sundays, 3 UK time. A little bit different to some of the group rides in that there isn't really a set pace for the ride. You jump on, there's a race group, if you will, that sets off from the gun at race pace as fast as they can go. The rest of the riders set off at a steady pace, an easy pace for the first 5 minutes of the ride, and then the group ride fragments up into different groups, every group riding at their own pace, and there's generally one of the frequent flyers in the groups that helps to hold the groups together acts as a bit of a sweeper and brings riders back in. See Tom Smith here, 160 metres left to the line, 8.6%. Adams is putting in a bit of an effort here behind him, trying to recover there. Tom's pushing out 3.5 watts per kilogram. Adams was up at 3.6, and just as I mentioned it there, that the scales have tipped again back towards Smith. I don't think Adams is going to be able to recover it. He might just get back to the wheel of Smith, but I have a feeling Smith has got a little bit more left in the tank to get him over the line. So I'm a little bit of selling for tonight. Probably not too many people watching at this point in the race. We do have a Facebook group, the V Cycling News group on Facebook. As Tom comes over the line there, and Adams powers it to get to the line. We've got the V Cycling News group on Facebook. We're also on YouTube, and we've got Twitter, Twitch, all the usual social media platforms. As Adams comes over the line. So if you're watching on any of those platforms, if you like and share, or if you follow us on those platforms, it'd be great to have some support from yourselves. As I say tonight, if you check out the Facebook RGT users page, then we'll be sending out a ride report later on for this race, and giving a doff of the cap to the riders that have put in the extra effort tonight. And you can leave your comments. If you shoot a message over to us on Facebook, we'll send that information on to Will and let him know who you think should be earning the Combativity Award. And that's it for us on the stream tonight. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be streaming this race again next Thursday. We're also streaming the Moon Riders on Tuesday, and a number of other events. If you check out the V Cycling News Facebook page. Hope you've enjoyed the stream tonight. Hope you've enjoyed listening to my voice, and we'll be catching you soon. Have a good evening and enjoy your racing.